I was. We will call the county board meeting of September 20th to order, and we will begin with a moment of silence and pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, would anyone like to approve the special meeting proposed agenda?
I'll move approval, Madam Chair, if there's no changes.
Motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passed. Now we move on to the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I'll move the consent agenda as presented.
A motion's been made to approve the consent agenda as presented. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Now we will move on to announcements.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just a few quick announcements for the board. First of all, just to note that the annual conference of the Association of Minnesota Counties is scheduled for December 5th through the 7th. Registration is open now, and we have early bird pricing until November 1st. There's also lodging still available at the conference hotel. If you are interested in attending, if you would let Keisha or me know, then we can get you registered and take care of lodging accommodations if needed. Second, a note on broadband, because I know some of you are tracking it. Fairly unique, the federal government actually rejected a Minnesota application as being insufficient for RDOF funding, and that was a company not proposing service in Sherburne County, but it's interesting, and that was LTD and Starlink had a combined request in, and they were found to not be sufficient to complete the project. So it's fairly rare that the feds can't use those fundings, but it does occur. Also a note that we did receive preliminary notice of a 150-mile transmission line being proposed by Minnesota Power and Great River Energy. It would be a major line that would come down from the north into the St. Cloud area and then down to Big Lake. So I'll make a copy of the letter. We just got it today and send it to you for your information, and they have a map on back of a major transmission line coming down that way. On that note, just a couple of things that we're tracking at the Public Utilities Commission. Of course, the Xcel Energy has a couple requests into the PUC. As you know, any solar facility larger than 50 megawatt, actually any power facility larger than 50 megawatts, we have no regulatory authority. It rests exclusively with the Public Utilities Commission. But we do monitor it, and if needed, we often ask your permission to put in comments. So the large solar project and the transmission lines related to that are progressing through the PUC. In addition, as you know, the Becker Business Park, there's a proposed land sale from Xcel Energy to a developer, and that is also going through the PUC. So we'll continue to track those at the staff level and keep the board aware. Just a note also, we were not successful at the federal level at this time to get funding for the Zimmerman Overpass for either the Infra Grant or the RAISE Grant. We are still in the running for the rural grant, and we're hopeful for that, and I believe probably Commissioner Phobia will give a greater update during her reports. And then last but not least, just to note that the Health and Human Services Child Welfare Safety Science 101 class is this Thursday from 9 to 11. And I think there's probably still seats available if the board is interested in participating. Again, if you would let Amanda know by today so that if needed, we can make sure it's posted as a potential open meeting. Thank you.
Okay. So now we will move on to item number 4, which is our open forum. How many people do we have signed up today?
We have 3 people signed up, Madam Chair.
Okay, would you like to read the yeah,
So the purpose of open forum is to allow public input and information to be presented to the board that does not require action by the board. It is requested that speakers refrain from personal attacks of any kind against another person, commissioner, or employee. It is requested that speakers refrain from campaign-style presentations. The time limit is 3 minutes per speaker with a maximum of 5 speakers per open forum. The time limit may be shortened or extended at the discretion of the board chair. The open forum may be continued following the conclusion of the regular board business meeting agenda items. It is requested that all input or information be addressed to the Board of Commissioners and not to members of the audience. Speaker handouts become public information, and the county may make copies of such handouts for the public if needed. And finally, the county board chair will ensure that the open forum policy is followed.
okay, so who's our first?
Our first speaker is Gary Tonsager of Elk River, speaking on election integrity.
Well, good morning. I'm here again, so I'm not going to go away, and I don't think the issue that we're talking about will go away either until it's resolved. So on March 21st of 2022, the EAC issued a report on an investigation into the Dominion voting system, E-Suite 5.5, because of a complaint by the Tennessee Secretary of State regarding voting irregularities in Williamson County, Tennessee. On November 3rd of 2021, the EAC received a report from the Tennessee Secretary of State's office that they were planning an investigation into anomalies observed in Williamson County, Tennessee during a municipal election held on October 26th of 2021 regarding Dominion Suite 5.5B image cast precinct tabulators. After further investigation, the election officials discovered that 7 out of 18 machines had the same problem, where a large number of ballots were fed through the tabulator but were not reported as counted when the polls closed. A formal investigation of this anomaly was performed by the EAC, Pro-V&V, and SLI Compliance. Of course, this is equivalent to the fox watching the hen house, since they are the same organizations that credentialed this faulty equipment in the first place. The investigation should have been done by an independent investigator if they really wanted to find out what the root cause of this unusual behavior was. Their analysis revealed that the QR codes on some ballots were misread. After further analysis, the investigation revealed the scanners correctly tabulated all the ballots until an anomaly was triggered by a misread QR code. The following ballots were not reflected. The following ballots after this anomaly were successfully scanned and tabulated by the ICP, but were not reflected in the closed poll reports. In other words, the votes were rejected by the misread IQ code, and every ballot after that made it through the scanner, but their votes were never counted. According to the EAC, the direct cause of this anomaly was inconclusive. And now I've been coming to you for the last probably 8 or 9 months or 10 months with situations exactly like this from many different areas of the country. And it's very frustrating to know that we're making these requests. We asked for a public hearing. We never got a public hearing. And there are problems with these machines. We've proven it. We've given you a lot of information. And today's just some more information that you need. And I would suggest that you read this thoroughly. I have the report from the EAC and another report by another gentleman that Kari is going to be talking about next. Thank you.
Thank you. Now
Next,
we'll go,
sorry.
the second one, yes.
Next, we have Kari Watkins of St. Cloud speaking on election integrity as well.
Good morning. I quote an interview from former Sandia National Laboratories engineer Jeffrey Lenberg, who developed satellite systems and tested software for U.S. Department of Energy. as he discusses Election Assistant Commission EAC report on Dominion's erroneous code in Williamson County, Tennessee. Lenberg showed a March 31st, 2022 EAC report where the anomaly was observed in Williamson County during an election held on October 26, 2021, regarding Dominion's ImageCast precinct tabulators. There was some very bad misbehavior of the equipment that was found only because a poll worker was keeping tally on a Post-it note, Lenberg says. They noticed the ballot count on the machine didn't match what they put in the machine. It was missing many ballots they knew went into the machine, so they raised the alarm, he continued. After further investigation, the election officials discovered that 7 out of the 18 machines had this same problem where the number of ballots fed through the tabulator but not reported as counted when they closed the polls. Tennessee ran its own investigation and was able to repeat the problem, so the EAC brought in testing entities, ProVNV and SLI compliance, to run an investigation. This, by the way, is a huge conflict of interest because they had already paid them and they had already certified it. So if there's anything wrong with these machines, they're complicit. On February 11, 2022, Dominion submitted a root cause analysis report to the EAC, who subsequently concluded the direct cause of the anomaly was inconclusive, followed by a statement that said erroneous code was present in the EAC certified D Suite 5.5B and D Suite 5.5C systems. This stuff should have been caught in testing. This is testing 101. If there is erroneous code there, if certification authorities had done their job, they should have found this, end quote. This shows that the EAC and ProVNV, both involved in testing the accuracy of the systems we use in Sherburne County, failed to do so. Can you guarantee our votes are counted and counted properly when those who are supposed to test and certify the election systems can't? We have given you ample evidence that there is a problem with these systems. Design, accuracy, lack of certification, lack of security, expense, outdated equipment. I do not consent to using electric poll books or electric machines to cast my count or my ballot. I do not consent to giving away or selling my personal private information to third parties such as Eric by state or county officials against my 4th or 14th Amendment. I do not consent to third-party contracts in our election process, nor for federal agencies dictating their involvement using the guise of critical infrastructure
Thank
security,
you very much.
as is Brendan, CISA, EAC, etc.
Okay. And our next,
Next, we have Terry Dickinson of Big Lake speaking regarding Kari Watkins's removal from the ballot.
Good morning. This is data request information. Auditor Arnold on August 26 sends out an email to David Medea and Haig of the Secretary of State's office titled State Election Authority 8/26/2022, Kari Watkins, Sherburne County. Watkins was on the primary ballot running for commissioner and was defeated in the primary election. Then she filed for Haven Township Supervisor. Medea responds, but mentions nothing about Kari. Medea is the Director of Elections, Deputy Secretary of State, and apparently did not see substance in Arnold's complaint. Haig responded, though, focusing on the term affidavit, disregarding the terms at the same primary or next ensuing general election. Again, Haig responded, a candidate who files an affidavit of candidacy for an office to be elected at the general election may not subsequently file another affidavit of candidacy for any other office to be elected on the date of that general election. Plainly, this states that one is not allowed to file for 2 offices in the general election, which should terminate this issue of Kari filing for one of the offices at the general election. However, on August 29th, Arnold again appears to be looking for a statement from anyone that Kari Watkins should be removed from the ballot when Arnold wrote, Could there be a ruling as to the interpretation of the statute 204B.06? The township attorney is asking for clarification, as this could be a potential issue. Was it? Where? I couldn't find it. She continues to write, I would like to get a response since this issue is holding up our ballot order for the general election. David Myers, attorney for Haven Township, then responded, adding what appears to be a case number to the subject line. Ms. Haig, I am the attorney for Haven Township. The township has an election for town supervisor position. A candidate for town supervisor ran in the primary election for county board and lost. She then filed for town supervisor position in the November election. This person was on the primary ballot for a different position. She lost, then filed for township supervisor. She is not a candidate for any other office in the general election. It appears that Haven Township attorney David Myers provided Arnold and Haig with a legal opinion in favor of Kari Watkins remaining on the ballot. But Arnold did not stop until she obtained a statement from Myers supporting the removal of Watkins from the November 2022 ballot. Could coercion force an attorney to retract a legal opinion for Haven Township, then support the opposite side, the wishes of the Sherburne County Auditor Diane Arnold? It is frightening to wonder if Auditor Arnold could use the government as a weapon and deny Watkins the right to run for office. Please consider the consequences of a possible civil rights violation of removing Watkins from the ballot. There is still time to put her name back on the ballot.
Thank you. Thank you. Is that our last person?
There's nobody else signed up, Madam Chair.
So thank you very much. And now we'll move on to our regular agenda. And item number 5.1 is to receive Great River Regional Library 2023 budget presentation. And we have Karen with us today. Good morning.
Give a copy to the chair.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Karen Punsack, Executive Director for Great River Regional Library. It's a pleasure to be with you today to talk about the library's activities as of to date and what we have coming in terms of the 2023 budget. Commissioner Phoebe is one of our Finance Committee members and is also on the Great River Board. We also have representatives Mary Eberly from Sherburne County and Jane Dietz from Sherburne County on our Great River Board. Our system is a 6-county system. We have 32 libraries and the GRL to go system in Sartell. So that's 33 locations you can check out a book across the 6-county area. Last year, we actually, is this on? Oh, there we go. Last year, we set up, are you turning the slides? Sorry, Keisha. I don't know if this is on. There we go. I see a light now. That's progress. There we go. Sorry about that. So last year we passed an updated strategic plan at the Great River Board. We changed some of our strategic priorities to be a little more focused. So literacy and access remain from the previous strategic plan, but we added library awareness as a focus because we had heard through our community meetings and our non-user survey that borrowers and residents simply just don't know all of the things that we do and like to hear more about what's available to them from the library. We also continued operational excellence, which is that philosophy of continuous improvement at the library and continuing to move that forward. The other addition is our theory of change. Why does the library exist? We are here as the institution to make sure people in our communities have and can use the trusted information they need to thrive. So that's why you have a library in Sherburne County. We have locations in 3 communities here in Sherburne County, and then we count St. Cloud toward that too, because a large proportion of the residents use that building as well. So Big Lake, Becker, Elk River, and St. Cloud are the 4 locations served by serving Sherburne County. And at the beginning of this year, we added open hours in Becker and Big Lake, 3 hours each. So we expanded that service footprint in those communities as part of an initiative across Great River to add hours in those smaller locations. I'll also note that we are experiencing a big transition here in Becker and Big Lake. Our Library Services Coordinator, Jeanette Burkhart, has been promoted to a regional position starting in October. So if you know anyone who would like to run a library in Becker and Big Lake, please have them apply. It is posted on our website at griver.org/jobs. Sherburne County is also seeing a lot of really unique partnerships over the last year. One of the efforts we did at the St. Cloud Public Library was a teen focus group, really honing in on those diverse voices from the local school districts in the St. Cloud area to see what we could do better in terms of offering services to teens. One of those efforts was the Teen Bookmark Challenge that you might have seen last month. Other big partnerships, not to mention our Story Stroll project, which we've talked about in the past. We have a Parenting Inside Out class that we do as a partnership with Sherburne County Jail. We're part of that. And then a nonprofit group called Every Meal reached out to us last Christmas and asked that we distribute food for them at our locations across the region. So we've continued that partnership, and they distributed food over spring break, and then throughout the summer, and then again this fall. So many of our locations have free food, no questions asked, available at the library, which has been fantastic. Our Wi-Fi to Go project has continued to expand. That's partially funded through our state library aid, and that project was originally, I think, 6 hotspots and peers pre-pandemic, and we are now up to 300 hotspots across the region, and they're available at all 32 locations. So you can check out a hotspot for either 1 week or 3 weeks, depending on which model of lending you've chosen, and you can use it with no questions asked from home with your library card. Another project we're underway with ARPA money that we received as a regional library system is to expand Wi-Fi parking lot broadband access in those locations that actually have parking lots with their library. So not everybody's got a full parking lot, but Elk River, Becker, and Big Lake are all going to be partnering with us to offer that, and we're in the process of installing that. So it'll be a 24/7 connection. It'll be much stronger than just sitting outside the library window and trying to pick up that signal. So we're really excited that that's moving forward, and we hope that to be completed at least by February or sooner if the equipment arrives. Oh, there we go. So this graph shows a demonstration of how the 6 counties pay into Great River Regional Library. And that's determined by our formula that's set up within the Joint Powers Agreement. So each county pays 1/3 based on their net tax capacity, 1/3 on their borrowers, and 1/3 based on their population in relation to each other. So even if we have a flat budget, those numbers fluctuate from one year to the next. And you can see that the top 2 lines, Stearns and Wright County, are getting closer and closer together. What's happening over time is Wright County is getting very close to being a larger proportion of the budget than Stearns County, which is a pretty big shift. And we'll see that the board seats change if that does occur. They're right now about $30,000 apart. So that'll happen probably in the next couple of years unless something really changes with tax capacity in particular. Sherburne County is that middle line, so it's been pretty stable throughout all of the years that are represented on this graph, but you can see all of the counties went up a little bit this year. That's partly because the budget's been supported by reserves over the last couple of years, and I'll show you a little bit more on this next slide. So the Great River budget has a lot of different revenue sources. We have state library aid, which we don't actually know when we set our budget, which is in July. So we guess at that 16% proportion of the budget, but Stearns and Wright County are actually our largest funders. Sherburne County is right on the heels of that, and it's about 14% of the budget. And then the other proportions of the budget that you see here that are significant are cash reserves and the surplus carryover. So over the last couple of years, the board has been very deliberate about spending down our reserves, and a big part of our budget has been supported by that one-time set of funds. And so over time, that part of the pie is going to decrease, and the overall budget will continue to absorb that part of the pie. Right now, we're looking at a total 3% increase for the 2023 budget at Great River Regional Library, but how that plays out at each county level is mostly determined by the formula. And that surplus carryover line fluctuates from one year to the next. So you can see that's from 2021. Next year's budget, 2023, will take in the 2022 surplus, and anytime there is a surplus, that will roll forward into the next year's budget when we're setting it. That cash reserves amount is part of a spend down plan, so that part amount will continue to decrease over time because that is one-time funds that we're trying to spend down. The other major budget line that really dropped back in 2020 was our interest revenue. At one point, that was a 6-figure number, and then it basically disappeared. And that is slowly climbing back, but it's going to take a couple of years for that to show up in this pie as actual whole slice, because it's such a tiny part right now. And so you can see the total budget for Great River will be a 3% increase. And you can see the amount of reserves and surplus carryover that will be included next year. And then the Sherburne County contribution actually increases by a higher amount. The average amount by county was 6.4%. So Sherburne County was on the slightly higher side, mostly because tax capacity and borrower numbers in proportion to the other 5 counties was actually a little higher than last year. And you can see on this next slide, the library is provided per capita by county also varies and kind of reflects that formula effect. So you can see some counties pay more than Sherburne County on a per capita basis. Right now, Sherburne County is a little higher than Stearns County, and that's partly because we had a pretty significant decline in borrowers at the St. Cloud Public Library. And so as those numbers recover from the pandemic, we expect that that part of the formula will also build back up, and it's really hard to say how that'll play out between Stearns and Sherburne County. Overall, all counties are contributing an average of $15.28 per capita. But what we're very proud about at Great River is that because we have one budget across 6 counties, we have a lot of efficiencies built in. Because our cities provide our buildings and we don't have to pay rent on all 32 locations, we're just leasing space for those headquarters operations, we're able to operate our region at about half of what it costs to run a library across the state. And we're very proud of the level of service we're able to offer in regards to the number of taxpayer dollars that go to support it. So we want to thank you for your support of Great River Regional Library. We have some of the best libraries here in Sherburne County. Elk River is our 2nd largest location and is definitely a showpiece for the region. And Becker and Big Lake are such wonderful, dynamic, growing communities and so supportive of their libraries. So we're very grateful to be have Sherburne County as part of our partnership. Thank you. I can answer any questions you might have.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Karen, can you go back to the pie chart?
Yep.
Please?
Oh. Yep.
Just a quick, oh, there it is, okay. I was wondering what that blue sliver is. Todd County wasn't showing up.
Yeah, Todd County is a little tiny part. And, you know, they actually had they had a 7% increase too, but the dollars at 7% when your pie is that small look a little different on the,
Oh, and
on the balance sheet.
I was just asking because previously when the slide was up, it was farther down, so there was nothing showing what that blue sliver was, but now it came up as Todd County.
Yeah.
I do also want to say I'm happy to hear that there's going to be some enhanced broadband service at the libraries. I was one that said many years ago when I was watching young people sit on the ground outside of our local library in Big Lake trying to get internet service to do their homework and stuff. So I'm very happy that that is going to be something that's going to not happen. They could at least maybe sit in their car.
Yeah.
And so I'm very happy to hear that, and very happy to hear that that the library is growing in Big Lake. And if anybody knows of anybody out there that would be a good librarian fit, please let them know. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Your Wi-Fi hotspots, who's your provider? Do you have more than one provider?
We started out with T-Mobile because it was just the best fit for when we needed to launch it at the time, which was spring of 2020. We are now using both T-Mobile and Verizon and experimenting. There's like where it works, and then there's how you administer it, and like there's glitchy things that happen with both. So we're using both.
Seems like it would be something you should be able to work with them and get a pretty good deal, because it is a marketing opportunity for them. If someone gets a hotspot and it works, pretty soon they're saying, hey, I want to do business with you. So I'm
Yeah.
sure you've thought of all of that.
Yes, we're fortunate that the providers have special contracts for libraries, and that's what makes it simpler. Yeah.
Anyone else?
Just say a few comments. Obviously, I've served on the library board for 6 years, and Karen runs a great ship, so I appreciate your leadership. I appreciate our board, and I appreciate this board for supporting the library, especially during these tough times. For me, it's basic. It's about accessibility for everyone. And I see Tony shaking his head, in social services. There are people that do not have computers in their home like we all do. And many different things that the library affords them that opportunity. If you get a chance, go to your local library and walk through and see all that they have to offer. Head up to St. Cloud and walk through there, because I think you'll be amazed at the services they provide and what they provide to our communities. So I just put that out there as a challenge. If you haven't been to a library lately, take a peek at it. Talk to the staff, talk about the things that they do there, because it's pretty amazing. So thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Karen, how long have you been director now?
May of 2015, so just over 7 years.
You've been with the library since
1999.
1990.
Before we had mice on the computers, if that gives you a reference point.
Probably. You were too young to go to work then. But I will say, that, Karen has brought a very nice level of stability to the library, to the budgeting, and to the process. So thanks for what you've done, because we have had struggles with it over the years. Back when I was on the board, it's probably my fault. But at any rate, you have brought a level of stability and consistency in budget that has worked well for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I'd like to say thank you also. I just think that our libraries have been a wonderful resource for people in our communities, and I thank you so much for all you've done. Thank you.
Thank you. We have great staff. Couldn't do it without everybody who's there. So thanks.
Okay.
Thanks, Karen. We'll see you
That was
later
nice.
today at a board meeting.
Okay, now we'll move on to item 5.2, which is to consider and approve the proclamation of September as Recovery Month. And we have Tony Masters with us and some other Health and Human Services staff.
Morning, Commissioners. Bruce asked me to do a quick introduction. So again, September is Recovery Month, and so with us I have Victoria Johannes, who's our Behavioral Health and Protection Supervisor, and then always supporting is Tony Masters, our Adult and Disability Manager.
Good morning. As Amanda said, I'm Victoria Johannes, and I'm the supervisor of the Behavioral Health and Protection Unit here at Health and Human Services, and I oversee the talented staff who deal with substance use disorder and mental health issues every day in their positions. According to SAMHSA's 2020 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 40.3 million people aged 12 and over had a substance use disorder in 2020. And 14.2 million people, age 18 and over, had a serious mental illness in that year. According to the CDC, there were over 107,000 drug overdoses in the U.S. in the year ending in February of 2022. Prescription medications, illegal substances, alcohol, and other substances are misused and abused every day in Minnesota. Well over 5% of adults in Minnesota abuse alcohol, and nearly 7% of Minnesotans could benefit from a substance use treatment program. Unfortunately, only 1 in 10 Minnesotans who struggle with addiction receive treatment each year. The average number of attempts to obtain long-term sobriety through treatment is 5. However, the median number is just 2. And this demonstrates that treatment programs are effective and often multiple attempts are necessary to maintain sobriety. There are 22.3 million Americans that have overcome substance use disorders. There are excellent treatment facilities in our state and many beneficial resources available in and around Sherburne County to assist individuals with chemical abuse and mental health issues. And some of these resources include the case management services provided at Health and Human Services. Raising awareness about these issues can help community members realize that help is available when they are willing to take the first step to start healing. I am grateful for this opportunity this morning to bring increased awareness about recovery from substance use and from mental health disorders. So, Sherburne County Recovery Month proclamation. Whereas every day, residents from Sherburne County and surrounding areas recover from substance abuse and mental health disorders, joining the thousands of vital, active, and contributing members of our society who live in long-term recovery. And whereas individuals in recovery show the power that each of us has to transform ourselves, our families, and our communities. As people share stories and celebrate the transformative power of recovery, they help dispel myths and stigmas surrounding addiction and mental illnesses. And whereas addiction untreated devastates the mind, body, and spirit, however, recovery from chemicals can work with appropriate treatment and ongoing support. And whereas we pay special tribute to the dedicated professionals and everyday citizens of Sherburne County who with skill and empathy guide people through the treatment and recovery process. Their message of hope and understanding remind us that the strength of our character is not derived from our imperfections, but from our ability and courage to recognize and address them. And now, therefore, the Sherburne County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim September as Recovery Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, public and private institutions, businesses, and schools to recommit our community to increase their awareness and understanding of individuals who struggle with chemical dependency and those who have broken the cycle and are living fulfilled lives of recovery and hope. Thank you for this opportunity. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for all that you do. This is really special.
So if the board is comfortable, we would need a motion to approve the proclamation and then a second.
I'll move approval.
Madam Chair, I'll second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve this proclamation as Recovery Month, September 2022. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Madam Chair, I just want to make a quick comment. I want to thank everybody in Health and Human Services that works hard with individuals that are dealing with these issues. I know it can't be easy, but I appreciate all of your efforts to help make their lives better.
And I must add, in memory of, I lost 2 brothers to mental illness and chemical dependency. So every day I pray for gratitude for the work that's done in the county and all across our state and country and those people who are living in recovery. So thank you.
Yes, thank you. Okay, now we'll move on to consider and approve, the Veteran Service update on the recent federal law passage of the PACT Act. And we have Bruce with us.
Morning, Madam Chair, Commissioners. This is more informational. Let me make sure that, there we go. This is what the VA is considering, probably the largest expansion of benefits in a long time. It pretty much falls under the hat of the burn pits and the veterans that have been in Iraq and Afghanistan and in that region of the world. But it goes back further than that. It goes back to at least World War II, which will now allows some veterans who we have right here in our own county that have been exposed to all of these different eras and situations, you may say. It's named after a specific soldier, Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson, who had contracted a respiratory illness over there. The illnesses that are labeled as presumptive, they're all scientifically and medically certified and researched and things of that nature. This is where, let me go back one. The PACT Act, it expands the health care for Vietnam, Gulf War, 9/11. It adds 20 presumptive new diseases that most of the veterans suffer with or deal with. It adds more presumptive locations for Agent Orange, which helps out our Vietnam veterans. Literally, a border would be like, if you were in Sherburne, they'd say you were exposed to Agent Orange, but if you were in Wright County across the river, no. So finally, after years of litigation and things in the courts and the evidence, they finally added about 5 new locations that'll help veterans. To include all of these will also assist the survivors of someone that did pass away and that was exposed in some of these areas. And it also includes different locations to include radiation. And that's the one that I was going to tell you that we've got a few of those here just in Sherburne County. The presumptive is just for a disability, the veteran needs to prove that their service caused that disability, whereas by law, a presumptive disease is one that is, the government presumes that your service caused that to happen, which would be as far as, let me go here, hey. All the way back to the Bikini Islands and World War II, there were different experimentation that military folks were exposed to. This was testing of the atomic bombs. I believe they did over 200 plus, as well as the hydrogen bomb, as well as drug use and things of that nature, to see how the combat effectiveness would be not only on our troops, but also on their enemy who they were fighting. But this was one of our Clear Lake veterans that was present at this operation. And his ship was so it was a brand new ship, so you know it cost millions. It only lasted for about a year because our veteran from Sherburne was on that ship at that testing, and their ship was so contaminated that they had to be taken off the ship, and then they went and stayed on another ship for about 30 days. They were brought back on the ship. It was too contaminated with radioactive. So that brand new ship, among others, to include it, it was scuttled. It was moored out there in that bay, basically, with others for about a year, and then they sunk it because it was so badly damaged with radioactivity. So the veterans, they're the ones that the government relies upon to kind of test back. That's his ship on the Dawson. And then also, this was just saying that human research, as far as bomb testing goes, again, they also used different types of legal and illicit drugs, LSD, I mean, everything, to see how that would, those effects would be on not only ours, but if they sprayed them and things of that nature. This was right here in Nevada, so on the next, actually you can see at the bottom, they were taken out by train, and then they were told to, hey, get in your foxhole, and then you watch this atomic bomb blow up, and then tell us what happened. And then they actually had maneuvers out in there to see how, again, they reacted and fell. So I think the last one, and then Johnston Atoll. This is an island. It's about 800 miles from the closest piece of land by Hawaii, so it's not near anything. And this was the chemical disposal site, or at least one of them. This has been shut down. It's basically a non-useful piece of land, but we had about 1,200 military folks there. So in a roundabout way, we're going to have veterans here in Sherburne County that are directly affected by this, and it's a nice historical, finally, piece getting addressed and by Congress and the White House. So, and that is about it. It was just an informational that we have a lot of veterans in this county that were exposed to, this stuff. So,
Thanks, Bruce.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'd like to just thank you, Bruce, for working with our veterans, and I'm happy to see that these initiatives are finally happening to give our veterans who have served our country and protected us what they have, what they deserve, for what they've been put through. It's about time.
Yes,
Just,
thank-
Bruce, just quick, some of those, that testing, actually, it occurred right after World War II.
it did.
And, it ended up being human testing. I don't think that was the idea at the time, but it wasn't completely understood, the reach of what that radiation would do, and ultimately, a lot of our veterans were damaged with that testing, so.
So, thank you.
yeah, thank you for the work you do. Okay, now we can move on to 5.4, which is to consider and approve the Three Lake Improvement District 2023 budget. And we have Dan with us this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. Today's request is to approve the Three Lake Improvement District budget and to place a $64,651.23 assessment on the county tax rolls. And this is the budget presented to us from the district.
Madam Chair, can you clarify that, Dan? They're an independent group?
Correct.
That
It's a
they
special
get
assessment.
authorization for us to put the assessments to their affected residents that are a part of this?
Correct. It's 433 individual properties that would be impacted from this assessment.
Madam Chair, I'll move approval.
A motion has been made to approve the request. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion's been made and seconded. Is there any discussion?
I'd just like to make a suggestion that you have a workshop the first part of next year to familiarize your new board with this and what is going on here, so it's understood, and have them come in and explain their work. So, because that'll be important. So,
Because I think it's important to understand that they came forward asking for this.
right, they asked for it. It was through a petition process, and it was we're giving them what they asked for and supporting it as we move forward. So it's easy to misunderstand what's going on. So,
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to item 5.5, which is to consider and approve resolution number 092022-AD-3035 to certify the preliminary 2023 general levy. And Bruce is going to present information. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Since we had a workshop on this, I won't rerun PowerPoint slides or anything, since we'll have those at the Truth and Taxation hearing. But just an update for the board, and also providing some talking points, which I've handed out to you, and we'll update them once and then email a final copy out this afternoon. We are at the point where we have to adopt a preliminary levy for 2023, as well as effectively a preliminary budget. We are recommending that today. The resolution would affect that. A couple things on the levy drivers, because we are fairly unique in some instances to other counties, and then we're following very similar to other counties in other cases. The first note is probably most unique, is that we have settled labor agreements for the next 3 years. Most counties do not. That in and of itself represents 4.65% of the levy increase, or $2.55 million. What are the pluses and minuses of that? We had to increase correctional officer salaries to increase recruiting and retention. We secured labor agreements for 3 years. We have actually a very modest COLA increase of 2.5%. However, to remain competitive, we also have range increases of 3.5% each of the next 3 years. So in all total, that's the biggest driver in the budget, which you'd expect from a personnel budget. Other drivers that you heard earlier, library costs increased by over $100,000. We changed healthcare providers in the correctional or jail setting. The levy impact is $240,000 for that change. It's more on the actual jail fund itself. State program aid cuts of $125,000, plus the unrealized increase in county program aid of about $500,000. Loss of internal revenue from our reserves, tax forfeitures, and sheriff bond payments of over $600,000. A shift from the enterprise to the levy of half of a correctional officer, and then a objective of the board to increase investments in parks by about $250,000. Putting that levy increase in perspective, just a couple of notes for the board and the community. Overall, our tax rate continues to decline significantly year over year. Right now, we're estimating about a 12% decline in our tax rate, which is great news. When we compare to inflation, the county's levy increases are not keeping up with that cost increases that we have. Similarly, most of our county revenues are either flat or declining, including county program aid, grants, and I would just note on investments, while we are projecting investments to be up next year, they're still down $400,000 from 3 years ago. $400,000 is about 0.7% of that levy increase. That would, if we were running, at full investment revenues that we saw pre-COVID. We also note that we are seeing some growth in some of our revenues, specifically local option sales tax and wheelage tax, but those are restricted in their uses, so it really doesn't help on the levy. And then finally, perhaps most importantly for you, we still continue to have some of the lowest per capita taxes in the state. That includes our tax rate as well as our amount that we collect per capita. So in summary, the preliminary levy really reflects a growing and changing Sherburne County that is resulting in increased needs for services, especially in areas of law enforcement and health and human services. We have reflected the board's priority on recruitment and retention, knowing that we want to remain competitive and an employer of choice. We have hopefully reflected your prioritization on increased investment in county park system. We've put additional resources towards law enforcement and social services, specifically in the area of mental health needs. We really think we've addressed our correctional officer staffing shortages. There has been an increase in the county attorney's office, which is needed not only to deal with the COVID backlog, but we're also seeing increasing caseloads just remaining. And then last but not least, the board also prioritized that we shift use of the federal ARP funds only to, or more to one-time capital and community support so that we don't hit a fiscal cliff later on when that funding and authority ends. And then last but not least, this is the preliminary levy. I know the board's direction will be to continue to shave that and cut that as we look towards December and the adoption of the final levy.
Thank you. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve?
Madam Chair, I'll move approval of the resolution.
Motion's been made to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve this motion. Is there any further discussion?
I just wanted to say, Madam Chair, thank you for putting together this outline as to where the impacts are coming from. We are a service organization, which is primarily made up of people that are personnel that does those works for us. So when we deal with 10 unions, and I think negotiating and getting a contract over 3 years is a good outcome. That at least will stabilize us for 3 years into the future. So I do appreciate everybody's work and effort towards this, and also, like Bruce said, to continue to work towards reducing anything we can. Our budgets are open and online. I welcome anybody to go through them. Contact me with any comments as to where you see any savings could be made, what you're willing to possibly do without. So I guess that's from my perspective.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, then all those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Thank you very much. So now we can move on to Commissioner correspondence, committee reports and upcoming meetings, future agenda items, September 7th through the 19th. So who would like to start?
Madam Chair, I can start. I didn't have any meetings to note since our last board meeting.
Okay.
All right, Madam Chair, I can go next. September 7th, I was honored to help with the open house at our elementary schools. September 8th, I, along with our IT director, Brian, attended a webinar on election cybersecurity. It was very interesting. I'm looking forward to Brian to give us an update on that as well. Also attended the APO meeting up in St. Cloud. September 13th, I was able to attend our tour of conservation practices with Sherburne County Soil and Water Conservation District. It was very, very interesting. We got to stop at a few places. We stopped at the A&L Peterson Farms and got a presentation on what they are doing with strip till and cover crops and infiltration tests. And that is all to work on trying to keep as much moisture in the soil and as much natural nutrients in their soil as well. Got to stop at the Briggs Lake Chain and got a presentation on AIS plus golden clams that were found there and how they do their lake monitoring. Also stopped at the Triple J Farms and got to have a presentation on the NRCS programs on irrigation and how a lot of these farms have started to embrace technology in looking at how they monitor what they use for watering to keep their crops going. And it's really cool to see that as to how that helps reduce water as well, because it's done so much through technology. And got a presentation on, we have now been found to have emerald ash borer. So we got a presentation on that, what to start looking for, what you can do as a homeowner. I definitely would contact our Sherburne County Soil and Water people if you think you have any trees that are affected on your property and what you can do to help protect them and hopefully save them. Then our last stop was at Graham's Park, and we got to have a presentation of what they're doing there to restore that park back to native prairie, along with using the help of goats and sheep. So it was a very, very great presentation, and we ended it at the Sherburne Wildlife Refuge and got a good update on what is happening out at the Sherburne Wildlife Refuge. So very, very interesting tour day. September 14th through the 16th, attended the AMC Fall Legislative Policy Conference. That was very interesting. We had a lot of good presentations, one of which was how taxes are assessed and how the impact of where people's property values are have gone in this past year. Also had an election integrity and security update. And then we also do a lot of policy committees. This is where we get together and we separate into different, we have health and human services, public safety, transportation and infrastructure, general government and economic development, and environment and natural resources. And this is where we plan on what we need to do to bring down to the state our legislative priorities for the upcoming legislative session. And this morning attended the Xcel Energy breakfast. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
Who would like to go next?
I can go next. I found myself out a little bit this last month with illness, so much better. But I too have participated in a couple emerald ash borer presentations. Very interesting and also scary because we have so many ash trees in our county. So our canopy could look a lot different in 5 to 10 years. Had a Sherburne County Soil and Water meeting. Was at the AMC Legislative Conference. I participate in the Health and Human Services group as we set our platform and our policies going forth. There was a great presentation on the Family Resource Centers that we also have a presentation here by Jody, and we are on a short list for a pilot project, so that's exciting. Looking ahead, attended the Princeton Airport meeting. I was able to catch up with the tour just out at Gramps Park, so it was fun to see the goats out there again. I've had a couple meetings regarding our 169 and 4 overpass and our lobbying efforts both on the federal and the state level. It's always one step forward, 2 steps back when you're working with trying to get a large amount of money for a project like that, but we are having some success. We have been named in the THUD by Congressman Emmer for a $7 million appropriation through the THUD congressional spending. So stay tuned for that. That's real exciting. We did meet with the U.S. Department, the Assistant Secretary of Transportation, Mr. Small, and we're able to pitch the project with him. So it was good to just get about 12 minutes with him to talk about the project. So keep moving forward with that piece. Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, I am facilitating the Wellness in the Workplace gathering that's coming up on September 30th, the morning of 9 to 11. If you haven't been able to experience Melissa Pribble and the work that she's done with Bounce Back, I'd really encourage you, if you have a free morning, join us. If you need the link, get it from me or go to Central Minnesota Jobs and Training, or I know we've sent it out to everyone. So join us for her work in supporting people in wellness in the workplace. And then also wanted to just announce the Wildlife Festival's coming up out at the Refuge, Saturday, October 1st, 10 to 2. They do some great work out there. We partner with them on many things. So that's coming up. I also had a MICA meeting. And I think that's it.
Thank you.
You two got to be exhausted.
Damn.
I attended the Xcel breakfast meeting today.
I was
with
there
you
too.
as well,
Excel
and
breakfast.
it is a nice opportunity to ask some questions, and it was a good conversation, I thought. MCAT, just an announcement there, and you may have read an email that we will be able to provide cyber coverage this year. We have been able to secure it and have a couple of companies that are offering it, and we are working our way through that. On the 12th, I had a meeting for panel preparation for the AMC conference I was there on Thursday for that session. Attended the MICA virtual board meeting on the 14th. And that is all.
Okay, thank you. On the 8th, I attended the SHAC Executive Committee meeting to help plan our conference, which is coming up in early October. On the 9th, I was up to St. Cloud for the extension group that's interviewing what is called the quad crop educator position. And on the 13th, I was also part of the Soil and Water Conservation Tour that we took that you just heard about. It was a delightful day, and we learned so much about what's going on in our for our farmers with soil and water. Really very, very interesting about looking at maintaining water purity and runoff and just a lot of different things that were really important. I was able to listen in on the acronym is GBR, but it's the Greater St. Cloud Business Group that had a presentation on how things are doing in the St. Cloud area from a gentleman who's speaks regularly with them. He's a professor at St. Cloud State that looks at economics. And then that evening I was at the PAC here this morning. And then on the morning of the 16th, I was able to go to the ribbon cutting for the new dental office that is opening in the Wright County Government Center. And it was a wonderful, they just have a wonderful office. They've got 8 rooms for people in their office, and there was a good turnout of people that were there, and the story that they told about how they got to that point was really so fascinating. I just look forward to, you know, our people in Sherburne County can go there as needed, and I know talking to our people in Sherburne County, we have a mobile unit that we can go around and do dental things too. So there's, I just think the resources in that area have really grown, which is great. And then this morning I went to the Excel breakfast as other people did. So thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I missed one thing that I wanted to bring up, and I probably should have brought it up during announcements. I don't know if it was noted, Leroy Anderson, longtime Livonia Township treasurer or clerk. But at any rate, he is Rachel Leonard's brother, passed away last week. So I just thought there should be some recognition for his long years of service to Livonia Township and the fact that he is former commissioner's brother. So.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Madam Chair, I forgot to add one thing. At the AMC policy conference, I sit on the transportation and infrastructure, and just wanted to make a comment that there was a lot of good discussion on, as our area continues to grow out this way, and the needs for an alternative transportation solution that just happens to go across a river that is continuing to grow. So we're working hard on trying to make that a reality to happen so we can alleviate the stresses that are on our area, especially in the Highway 25 corridors between Highway 10 and Interstate 94. So that was encouraging to hear a lot of support for those needs. And so we'll continue to push through that through our CMRP group and work towards those solutions. Oh, and one other thing. I just have a little tidbit that I thought was very interesting from our soil and water tour. One of the gentlemen, one of the presenters, we got to the first stop and I could not figure out why would there a pair of tighty-whities sitting on the table. Well, come to find when that came about, you can take a pair of tighty-whities, and if you bury them in your ground of your garden or whatever your field is, and you do it for 60 days, if your soil is healthy, it will eat that cotton. So when you bring it back out of the ground after 60 days, you should find, if your soil is healthy, you should find nothing but the elastic band. If it's still in pristine condition, you've got issues with your soil. I found that very interesting as an alternative use of tighty-whities.
Does it have anything to do with their condition going into the ground?
Had to be pristine.
No, but we all got to take one of those home. So
Yes.
see what happens in 60 days. So, okay. Anyone else have anything else they want to share? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to 5.7, where we adjourn our regular meeting, and we will recess for, what, 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay, and then we will come back and resume. Thank you. So is it okay to reconvene? Okay. Okay. We'll reconvene and open our Community Health Board meeting. Hello, Nicole.
Good morning.
So first of all, we'll start with requesting approval of the Community Health Board meeting minutes, meeting agenda, rather.
Madam Chair, I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? Okay, motion's been made and seconded to approve the Community Health Board meeting agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. And then, is it okay if I just say, ask for request to review and approve the Community Health Board meeting minutes from June 7th, 2022?
I'll move approval.
Is there a second?
I'll second, Madam Chair.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the Community Health meeting minutes from June 7th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. And now we can move on to consider and approve acceptance of statewide health improvement partnership annual grant award. Nicole, thank you.
Correct. So just a budget approval for this coming up year for our SHIP grant. We are in the middle of our 5-year grant, and it really focuses on tobacco cessation and reduction, obesity, and well-being. And so same amount funded for the last couple of years, and that is the projected amount for the next 2 years. And we are just in the midst of really redefining our work plan and getting those staffing hours allocated.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
And Nicole, when you say smoking, you're also adding in vaping devices as well?
Correct. Yes, any kind of tobacco use.
So I'll make a motion to approve and accept the statewide health improvement partnership annual grant award in the amount of $250,700 for the budget period of 2022 to 2023.
Okay, motion's been made. Is it a second?
Madam Chair, I'll second that.
Okay, is there any discussion, further discussion about the request to approve and accept? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion's passed. Go on to your bi-monthly report.
All right. Commissioner Brent, you did mention the SHAC meeting that's coming up, and that is October 6th and 7th. This is kind of a different platform. We haven't had a retreat in a number of years, so we're excited to see this. It's both in-person and virtual options, and it's located in St. Cloud. And really the content of this retreat is around transforming public health systems in Minnesota. We've been doing some work for a number of years, but really in the last year have kind of re-engaged those conversations. And so we're excited that there's folks from the state of Washington coming to talk about what their process looked like so we can have some lessons learned and continue to move forward in kind of redesigning what public health in Minnesota looks like. And you can continue to register up until the next couple of days on the 22nd. So part of that preparation for us at the local level and at the state level is a cost and capacity assessment. So every department in Minnesota has been working on a very robust self-assessment, which includes details about funding, capacity, authority, service levels, and estimates on what it would cost to really implement public health in an ideal world. So we have just basically completed all of that. I think it was 144 questions around just capacity, and then another 300 on expertise, and a variety of questions that our staff, we had invited many staff to participate. A few of our leadership staff were able to kind of gauge where they think we are really at when it looks at our capacity and our expertise. So we're excited to see what that report shows in the spring. They do plan to have a robust report for the legislature so that they can really talk about if we want to transform public health, what would that cost and what would it need? Any questions around that? Just a few division updates. We were awarded Strong Foundations Evidence-Based Home Visiting Awards in August. We had applied for those in April and May, and those are really a continuation of our evidence-based work that we've been doing for the past 5 years in collaboration with Stearns County, Wright County, Benton County. That's our first steps. We have 2 pots of funds allocated for Sherburne. So one pot is for our particular public health staff to carry out the duties, and one is that we are continuing to be the fiscal host for the collaborative, and so we have a collaborative pot of funds as well. The contracts are still being finalized, but it's a 5-year grant process with 1-year budgets. So I expect that I will be back again August, September to look at budget period 2. A quick update on WIC. This year was a renewal of the WIC contract for formula services, and it did change from Similac to Enfamil. They are really hoping that this helps to address some of the shortage issues that have been pretty prevalent this past year. And no, they still do have substitutions available, but overall they've seen less shortage needs here in Minnesota. They've done a really good job getting resources to our families. A couple of updates on staffing changes. We've had 2 public health nurses and 1 support staff resign in the last month or so. And we're really looking at this as an opportunity to kind of redesign, reorganize, and kind of right-size our work. So some of our FTEs have been moved out or will be moving out to some of our partners in social services who have had increase in demands. That is in light of some of our grant decreases and some of the changes when we look at those foundational capabilities and assessments to say some of the work we may be able to let go of, or we may be able to decrease the amount that we've done in the past and maybe have more capacity to address emerging needs and some of the things that we were anticipating might be a need but really haven't seen the demand yet. So that's really what we'll be working on the next couple of months. We're also doing strategic planning along with that. So we hope by the end of the year, early spring, we'll have a new strategic plan that really aligns with what we've done with our staffing and where the priorities are. And then just one other update regarding a number of new individuals to our community. We've had a number of individuals considered through our refugee programs come to Sherburne. Some real small numbers through our traditional program, and so that's the federal allocation. They decide on a number. There's so many for each state, and then they get kind of parsed out to different counties. So 3 for those regular kind of traditional refugees, and that's just been 1 family. But we've also seen some refugees coming in from Afghanistan and also Ukraine. And those are 2 different acts that we're seeing those folks come into. The Ukrainian one is a bit different. Those folks are sponsored by community members here in Sherburne County. And so it's a little bit of a different process, but we still reach out to them to help coordinate medical care and connection to resources and support so that they can get acclimated to our area. Any questions on any of those updates?
Madam Chair, I'd just like to say, Nicole, it's not very often you hear that the opportunity to reassign and right-size work in government is not often used, so I appreciate that consideration and that you're looking at I'm assuming some streamlining and some making sure that the efforts are put where they're needed, and it's really important, so I'm really glad to hear you're doing that, so thank you for that.
Yeah, I would say our whole department has been, that's really been a priority, trying to figure out what is the right size, and just because we've done it that way doesn't mean that we have to continue to do it that way. So
Okay.
I don't know what Amanda's saying is, something about innovation and budgets and whatever.
Scarcity drives innovation.
There it is, scarcity drives innovation. So hopefully we're really following that philosophy and making sure we've got the right fit.
Like that, we should have that printed on a wall somewhere in the
That's why Dan sits
boardroom.
next to me, because he likes
Yeah.
that.
We could have it back there on the back wall.
Yeah, I appreciate all the work that you've done, and I look forward to, the work to look at what the role of public health should be going forward. I just think that's going to be a fascinating discussion, and I'm looking forward to what comes from that, so.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. I think we've noticed that we had a lot of gaps, and Covet brought a lot of those to light, but our funding and our statutes really haven't really kept pace with where the work is going, so it's time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, well, thank you so much.
Last but not least, a quick COVID update.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I will just
I
kind of
I
do a
didn't see that.
high-level summary of that as well. Cases are down overall. We did see, though, higher numbers this summer than we had expected and higher than the previous 2 years. And that's in light that many people have been using over-the-counter tests, and those are not counted in on that statewide count. So just an interesting, if we really knew the scope of infection, it might be much larger. And I do have a graph coming up on the next slide. In the fall, we typically see a spike and into that early winter. We may not see that this year because there has been such a wide number of infections, and hopefully our vaccinations, not as great as we would like them to be, but we're at about 50% for at least one dose for the majority of our population.
COVID is over. It ended on 60 Minutes last Sunday night, didn't it?
Well,
Fun. Dream on.
Nicole, I think you're spot on in regards to the home testing, because I know that my granddaughter came down with COVID and she just home tested and worked her way through it.
yeah, and the exciting part is the hospitalizations and death rate has been really low, and we hope that continues. So hopefully the vaccine is doing what it's supposed to, right, and keeping the severity really low. So hopefully good recovery for most people. We're still waiting to hear more about long COVID, though, and what does that look like and what are some of the implications. I don't think we're really going to see that impact until the next couple of years. So just an update, too, we do continue to offer the primary series here at Sherburne in our public health division. It's only monthly. Our demand has been very low, and so to be not wasteful with our vaccine, we've just really kept a low supply on. But that is for 5 and up, and we have the Pfizer vaccine. We have not purchased any bivalent boosters because they are pretty available in the community. Most pharmacies, most clinics, I'm not quite sure about here at a Well at Work clinic, but I believe they do have access to it as well, do carry it. And so if the need arises, we certainly can do that. But at this point, we have opted to kind of wait and see what the demand is. We do keep the dashboard up to date, so this is still on the county website, but 2022 is that yellow bar, and so just looking, May, June, July, and August, pretty high, and not counting a lot of those home tests. So we'll see how September shakes out, and then into the fall.
We're seeing a reduction in severity, though.
Correct. And again, we're about 50% or so with our vaccination rates. And again, the biggest priority has been that aging group, and they're very well covered. I think they're at 90-some%. So, really seeing that that's a good thing for our community. Some of our younger folks have not opted to get vaccinated yet, and so maybe that will come with time. And then just some additional resources. There's lots still out there if you're interested, or if COVID is over for you, then you don't need to worry about all these. Any other questions?
Can we get a copy, or can you send this last one out to us so that we have that as a resource?
Sure can.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any? Yes, okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the commission. Just two things. First of all, I noticed a Scrivener's error in the minutes. The title said May 17th, but the actual minutes were from June 7th. So we'll correct that administratively. I just want to note it for the record. It was a title. It was just titled wrong.
Okay.
And then second of all, Nicole, kind of glossed over the staffing issues, and I just want to highlight it. We really asked her to step up to the plate because of the changes. But that unit in particular, as you know, from COVID, took on a completely different mission. And that mission still exists, plus they're doing their normal work and they're transitioning. And it's been a lot of really incredible effort by Amanda and Nicole to lead that unit through the changes. And because of the budget constraints, we asked her to do something extraordinary, and that's basically absorb an entire position. And that's, she said she took one for the team, and that's what happened. And I just want you to know and publicly thank her for her leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Take care. And now we will adjourn the Community Health Board meeting and open our workshop meeting, which is parkland acquisition, discussion, and direction. And is Gina with us this morning?